Behind the scenes, Pruitt has been frustrated with the Grassleys' aggressive intervention on the mandate, according to a senior government official with knowledge of the situation. Grassley, as chairman of the Judiciary Committee that has jurisdiction over judicial nominees and the Russian investigation, is one of the most powerful senators on Capitol Hill. Trump has made clear to Pruitt that he needs to work with Grassley to resolve their dispute over the mandate, according to the official. An EPA spokesman declined to comment on Grassleys' role or Pruitt's perceived frustration. The backstory: President Trump has supported ethanol, which comes mostly from corn and is thus important to senators from corn-rich states, like Iowa. Pruitt, in his former job as Attorney General of Oklahoma, signed on to litigation opposing the federal mandate, also called the Renewable Fuel Standard (RFS). Trump has aggressively supported the mandate and campaigned heavily on it while touring Iowa during the presidential campaign. Gritty details: Grassley and a bipartisan group of roughly 30 senators sent a letter Monday urging Pruitt to increase the volumes of biodiesel it requires as part of the ethanol mandate, which mandates that EPA issue annual quotas for different types of biofuels. The agency in September took a rare step by proposing to reduce the levels of biodiesel and advanced biofuels the mandate would require. Grassley and other senators are also concerned about EPA's possible policy change regarding exported biofuels. Sen. Grassley will oppose any effort to reduce blending levels or otherwise undermine the RFS to help a handful of merchant refiners, a spokesman for Grassley said. Those efforts are not necessary, and run contrary to the stated commitment of President Trump and Administrator Pruitt to maintain and defend the integrity of the RFS. About that meeting, at least a half-dozen GOP senators are expected to attend, including Senators Roy Blunt from Missouri and Joni Ernst of Iowa, according to spokespeople for their offices. Scientists have found a bird-like skull from a reptile that existed in the Triassic age, 100 million years before birds evolved, per a new study. The newly discovered species is called Avicranium rhinostoi. Scientists used modern computer modeling technology to render a representation of the full reptile using just the skull. Why it matters: this is the first time we've seen a bird-like head from an animal that lived this long ago. It's a striking example of convergent evolution, separated by time. Other examples of convergent evolution include wings in bats and birds, and color in penguins and killer whales. Good deal is for TBHS makers. This is a good deal. The small company, based in Oakland, California, has spent the last 5 years building several products and apps with varying success and was in the process of shutting down when it debuted TBH, according to a Facebook post by co-founder Nikita Beer. Terms of the acquisition were not disclosed. Disclosure: the author of this story went to college with TBH's Nikita Beer. Key takeaways: the most visits from 2006 to 2014 to 457,492 were caused by guns classified as other, but handguns were the single most deadly gun type. Assaults typically involved handguns and shotguns, compared to hunting rifles and military rifles, which caused higher shares of accidental injuries or deaths. Of the 190,396 people who visited the in handgun-related incidents, 55% were victims of assault. Shotguns caused 41,500 visits, of which 47% were related to assaults. What to expect: in 120 days all federal agencies will be required to deploy HTTPS for its websites, and in 90 days they'll be required to roll out beefed-up email security. The backstory: this isn't the first time the government has ordered the adoption of these enhanced measures. The Obama administration rolled out a similar directive in 2015, but 2 years later only about a quarter of agency sites support encryption. Kisa, a startup that's been working on a chip for transferring large data without Wi-Fi or wires, has filed a trade secret theft lawsuit against Essential Products, the smartphone startup led by Android co-founder Andy Rubin, according to Reuters. Kisa alleges that the two companies were in conversations about Essential potentially using its technology for 10 months before it decided to use a competing chip from Cibeam, a division of Lattice Semiconductor. However, Essential's implementation uses a lot of the techniques Kisa has developed, says the company. Essential Products declined to comment to Reuters as it hasn't been served yet. Old Connection: Essential was co-founded by Andy Rubin, who co-created Android. Kisa is in part funded by Tony Fadell, who first rose to prominence as the godfather of Apple's iPod, which led to the iPhone. When Elwood Adams Hardware Store first opened its doors, the best-selling items were clock bells and pinions. That was 1782. Now, on October 20th, the oldest continuously run hardware store in America will close its doors for good, CBS reports, a victim of Amazonization. The big picture: Elwood Adams, established in Worcester, Massachusetts, survived 2 wars on U.S. soil, the Great Depression and the Great Recession. But those were less damaging than the shift to online shopping. I think Amazon or the larger big box stores have probably just been too much to compete against, city manager Ed Augustus told CBS. The demise of Elwood Adams illustrates the profound challenge to brick-and-mortar retail, and another hit to the mom-and-pop shops that once dominated Main Street. Though the S&P 500 was in the black on Monday, stocks of retail companies fell broadly, with shares of Nordstrom, Sears, and cosmetics vendor Ulta losing favor with investors during trading hours. Nordstrom shares lost more than 5% after the company announced it was suspending efforts to take itself private after struggling to find interested investors. Sears tumbled nearly 12% on the news that Bruce Berkowitz, one of its largest investors and a close associate of CEO Eddie Lampert, would be leaving the board of directors. Ulta lost 2.5% of its value, following a decision by Goldman Sachs to downgrade the stock, citing slowing growth in the beauty products space. Other analysts have warned that Amazon threatens cosmetics retailers like Ulta and Sephora. Why it matters: Sears' struggles have been long-standing, but both Nordstrom and Ulta have been at various points cited as traditional retailers immune to Amazon's online power, and poised to avoid the struggles of the broader industry. President Trump, during a press conference today: "We now actually have military distributing food and PR, something that, really, they shouldn't have to be doing." Rep. Nydia Velasquez's DPR warned that this could become another Flint in an interview with CNN. "We're talking about contaminants, toxins, material, oil that are in this water. You're telling me that this water can be used as drinking water? I don't think so." The latest on what we know from Puerto Rico, per FEMA and the PR government site Boots on the Ground: more than 20,000 federal civilian personnel and military service members, including more than 1,700 FEMA personnel, are on the ground in Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands. State help: 31 U.S. states are helping in PR, and 20 in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Electricity: 13.7% of the island has power, up from 9% Friday. Roughly 43% of cell towers have been restored. Food: approximately 87% of grocery stores are open, 396 of 456. Gas: roughly 79% of retail gas stations are operational, 872 of 1,100. Shelter: 5,037 people remain in shelters across the island, down from 5,602 Friday. 105 shelters are open and operating. Transportation: only 392 miles of Puerto Rico's 5,073 miles of roads are open. All commercial airports and federally maintained ports are open, some with restrictions. Water and waste: approximately 72% of Puerto Rico Aqueduct and Sewer Authority (PRASA) customers have potable water, up from 63% Friday. 56% of wastewater treatment plants are working on generator power, the same as Friday. Medical care: 95%. 6,467 hospitals are open, down from 97% Friday. Many remain on backup power systems, and are without air conditioning, 95%. 4,648 of dialysis centers are open, the same as Friday. Banks: 50% of bank branches, 157 of 313 are open and operating. Go deeper: the storm has passed, but Puerto Rico's health faces prolonged recovery. Stat News: sending relief by air and sea to Puerto Rico from the Bronx. NY Times: Puerto Rico struggles with massive environmental crisis. Washington Post. This post is being updated with the latest information on the Puerto Rico recovery efforts.